So I'm done. I wondered as I closed the office door for the last time. No more unfinished projects. No more people waiting for me to answer emails. No more busy mornings in my office clothes. For the first time in decades, I felt no one needed me, and that made me feel strangely empty. I used to think that retirement would be a reward, a freedom. But instead, I felt lost. No phone calls, no upcoming meetings, no more thank yous. What I lost was not just my job, but a sense of usefulness, of meaning, of connection. I sat in the quiet house and realized that what I feared most was not the end, but the vast void that would follow. And it was in that silence that I began a new journey, quiet, unscheduled, but incredibly real. A journey to find presence, fulfillment, and deep connection with people, starting from something seemingly small baby. I started the first thing many people do after retirement, buying something to mark a big milestone. For me, it was a new truck. Dark blue, smooth leather interior, fresh new smell. I walked into the dealership, pointed at the shiny car and signed the paperwork that same day. No hesitation. No second thoughts. It was like a medal for 30-some years of tireless work. I worked hard, sacrificed, lived for others. Didn't I deserve a reward? The first few days were exciting. I found every excuse to drive, to the market, around town, even just to fill up the tank. I parked a little further away so I could look back at it from afar. And every time someone complimented me, "What a beautiful new car," I smiled, feeling a little caressed in my heart. But you know, that feeling, it didn't last. After only 2 weeks, the joy began to fade. I still drove every day, but when I stopped in the yard, I just sat there, waiting for some feeling to come back. But it never came. Have you ever had that feeling? You thought something would make you feel enough, and in the end it was just a shiny surface, fading like everything else? One afternoon, I was driving around and coming home. No destination. No purpose. I turned off the engine, sat in the car and looked around, the shiny dashboard, the smooth leather seats, not a speck of dirt. And I sat there, feeling lost. I asked myself honestly, is this what I worked so hard for all these years? How many hours, how many weekends, did I trade for a car? The answer was not easy to hear, but it was true. I was trying to fill a void in my heart with something I could buy. But that void wasn't material. It was deeper, filled with a sense of need, of connection, of purpose. And the car key, no matter how shiny, couldn't open that door. Have you ever tried to shop, plan, or be busy just to avoid sitting with yourself, with a silence that makes you anxious? That truck still runs fine. I still use it to get around. But now it's just a tool. It's no longer the answer. And thanks to that, I began to understand that, what I really need, is another way to live. A way of life that I was never taught, presence, fullness, and no need to prove anything anymore. After the car, I was no longer in a hurry to search for anything. Instead, I began to notice the quiet moments of the day, the times when nothing happened, but there was nothing left to chase after. And strangely enough, on a very normal morning, when I didn't turn on the TV, didn't pick up the phone, just sat with a cup of coffee slowly cooling on the table, I began to feel something else, something that I had never realized during all the busy years. One morning, for some unknown reason, I didn't turn on the TV. Not because I forgot. But maybe, because I was tired. Not physically tired, but tired of the feeling of always having to start the day with something. News, schedules, information. That day, I just made a cup of coffee, sat down on my familiar chair in the kitchen, and did nothing. Didn't pick up the remote. Didn't pick up the phone. Didn't surf anything, didn't calculate anything. Just sat there, watching the light through the curtains, listening to the wind breathing steadily by the carpet, and letting myself breathe. Strangely, those 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, slowed down my whole day. But not in a sluggish way, but in a comfortable way. As if I had just taken off a heavy layer of clothing, stepped out of a fast-paced life that no longer suited me. Have you ever sat down, really sat down, and let your mind do nothing? No straining, no solving, no checking, no worrying? I had never. Until that day. At first, it felt a little strange. My mind was wondering, I should do something. Aren't mornings meant to warm up? But then I looked out the window, saw the morning sun slanting over the old wooden fence. The light was soft like a gentle hug. No show, no demands. And I sat still, letting the moment pass, as it was. I didn't try to meditate, didn't breathe in rhythm. I was just present, truly present, in my own morning. And I suddenly thought, how many mornings like that have I missed in my life? That day, I didn't do anything extraordinary. But I felt lighter. No more racing against the clock. No more invisible tension in my chest at dusk. All day long, I walked more slowly, ate my lunch more carefully, and when I saw the picture of my grandson on the table, I smiled genuinely. The next day, I tried again. No TV. No news. Just me and a warm cup of coffee, watching the world wake up, without my control. Nothing magical happened. But it didn't need to. Because those 5 minutes were enough. Enough for me to feel alive. Enough to not feel empty. Enough for my mind to have room to breathe. And you know, after many years of comparing the value of life with achievements, that silence was an unexpected gift. Maybe you are also having mornings like mine, waking up, no schedule, no one calling, no urgent work. We easily turn on the TV, open the phone, let the noise fill the void. But if one morning, you try to sit down, just to sit. Not to do anything. Not to be better. But just to be present in your life, one more time. Who knows, those 5 minutes will gently lead you back to something you thought was far away. Fullness, right in the moment. If you feel that what you just heard touches somewhere in your heart. If you find that these are the things you, or someone you love, need. Then you can like, share or subscribe to the channel. Not just to support me, but so that we can meet again, in the following stories for people who have gone through many seasons of life, and still deserve to live fully. And from the slow mornings, I began to pay attention to many other things during the day, small things that I used to just do to get it done. And strangely enough, it was the most boring thing, folding laundry, that became a moment that made me speechless. Not because something big happened. But because for the first time, I saw my life, neatly contained in each folded piece of fabric. I have never liked folding clothes. For me, it has always been the last part of an endlessly repetitive task, washing, drying, folding. And then repeating. During my working years, I often did it when my mind was busy with many other things. There were days when I folded clothes and couldn't remember what I had just folded. I just knew to do it quickly, to get it done. The sooner I could put them in the closet, the more I felt completed. But one afternoon, a few months after my retirement, I stood in front of the dryer, and I was in no hurry. I don't know why. Maybe it was because the house was quiet. Maybe it was because I had nowhere to go. Maybe it was because my heart was empty, and I started to notice things that seemed insignificant. I opened the dryer door. Warm air came out, carrying a familiar smell, clean, soft, very ordinary. I took out each item, not throwing it into the basket like I usually did. I picked up the towel, still warm, and for the first time, I folded it slowly, completely. And then, I felt something, touching me. Not noisy. Not clear. Just a gentleness creeping into my heart, as if I had just touched a part of my life. That shirt, the one my nephew wore the last time he came to visit. There was still a faint green grass stain on the sleeve, where he fell when I couldn't catch him in time. That towel was my wife's, the one she used to wash her face before going to bed. And that thin shirt was the one I always wore when I went to the coffee shop on Sunday mornings. I suddenly realized, each item carries within it a part of my memory. A part of the people I love. I continued to fold. Not because of duty. But because with each touch, I felt like I was taking care of life, not the life out there, but the life right here. Right in this house. Right in this simple love. Have you ever noticed that? That the smallest things, a shirt, a pair of socks, an old scarf, are evidence of life going on, quietly and sincerely? I fold a scarf as if I were smoothing a piece of memory. I smooth a shirt as if I were smoothing time. I feel grateful for still being able to do this, for still having someone to wash clothes for still having someone to love through the little things. I used to think that only the big moments were memorable, parties, holidays, events. But it turns out, it is these quiet things that keep us connected to life, to each other, to ourselves. And then I ask myself, if the little things of the day can contain love, then how many times have I missed out on love? From that day on, I no longer fold clothes to finish. I fold to remember. Fold to live. And in a very special way, fold to reconnect, not only with the people I love, but with myself, the me who used to get lost in the hustle and bustle, in the titles and deadlines. If today you have a basket of clothes that need to be folded, don't rush. Try picking up an item, looking at it a little more closely. Smell the familiar scent. Imagine the person who wore it. Or yourself in a certain moment. Just one item is enough. Because who knows, what you are touching is not just fabric, but your own life, quiet, beautiful, and waiting for you to be present with it again. Since I started slowing down everything, from folding clothes to making coffee, I realized that I was used to living in noise, in fullness. There is a small habit that I did not realize I had become dependent on, taking my phone with me every time I go for a walk. You can do it too, it's not strange. Taking it with you is a reflex. As soon as I leave the door, my hand searches my pocket, wallet, keys, then phone. To listen to music. To count my steps. To feel I'm still doing something, even if it's just walking. But one morning, I left my phone on the table. I remember hesitating for a few seconds at the door. Go back to get it? Or just walk out? Finally, I closed the door and walked away, with nothing beside me. Just me, my feet, and a world that was still moving. And you know, for the first time in a long time, I heard the wind blowing through the trees. Not the sound in my headphones. But the real wind, soft, rustling through the leaves, the sound like an invitation. Listen, don't miss it. I slowed down, taking each step. My heart slowed down too. As if it was breathing for the first time that day. Have you ever walked, but your head was somewhere else? Thinking about what to do. Missing someone who hasn't called back. Worrying about children, or health, or the future. Me too. But that morning, for the first time I saw, the light shining through the fence, the streak of sunlight on the sidewalk, the dry leaf curled up in the corner of the wall as if whispering something that I usually ignore. I didn't bring anything with me to make time go faster. And that's why time slowed down so I could start living in it. I saw an old pine tree on the corner of the street, still standing there for years, but why does it feel so familiar today? I reached out to touch the rough bark, and wondered, how long has it been since I really touched something? It was just a touch, but I felt like I was touching myself. Do you feel that way? That sometimes we live day by day, doing all kinds of things, thinking all kinds of things, but forgetting where we really are, who we are in that very moment. That walk only lasted 20 minutes. But when I returned, I felt like I had just walked through a door. Not grand. Not dramatic. But gentle and real. As if I had just been given back something that I had not known I had lost for a long time. And my friend. I am telling this story not to make you feel good. I am telling this story because I think you also need a morning like that. No need to go far. No need to have a reason. Just try to leave your phone behind, step outside, and walk. Not to count your steps. Not to think. But to see. To listen. To breathe. Not for any result. But because your heart deserves a real space to calm down. You've lived long enough to know that no one can give you peace. But you can create it, step by step, minute by minute, just by being fully present in your own day. If tomorrow is a nice day, try it. Just a short segment. No headphones. No notifications. No need to post anything. Just you, and the sound of footsteps. You, and the morning light. You, and the part of your life that you may have passed by all this time. Who knows, that's exactly what you need. Not because someone told you. But because deep down, you've known it all along. After a few times of stepping out with nothing but yourself, I began to realize, what I was really missing wasn't notifications or news, but a familiar voice. Someone who used to be a part of my life, but who hasn't been around for a long time. And then, on a quiet afternoon, when I had no special plans, a name suddenly popped into my head. I heard my heart say, call him. That afternoon, nothing special. The sky was quiet. The house was quiet. I was sitting at the table, still holding a cup of cold tea. And in that silence, a name appeared in my mind, Mike. For no apparent reason. No birthday. No party. No news that reminded me of him. It was just. I missing his laugh. Missing the way he always picked up the phone with the phrase, "What's up, missing me again?" Remembering the times we both went fishing, not catching anything but still coming back with joy in our hands. And then I looked down at the phone. My finger slid to his name in the contact list, stopping there for a moment. There was a pause. You know that feeling, the hesitation before pressing the call button. Not knowing if the person still remembered me. Not knowing if it was a bother. Not knowing if I was doing something too late. But then I thought, if I remember, then maybe I should call. Not because I needed something, but just because I missed you, and I pressed the call button. The bell rang 3 times, then stopped. A familiar voice, a little hoarse than before, said, "Hello." I simply said, "Mike, it's me. Nothing important, just thinking about you." There was a pause. Then he laughed. A short, surprised, and sincere laugh. "I can't believe it. I was just thinking about you the other day. We talked for almost an hour. Nothing big." I told him about the vegetable garden that wouldn't grow. He told him about his knee that ached every time the weather changed. I told him about my grandson who was just learning to walk. He told me about his daughter who was about to give birth. Stories that seemed small. But each word seemed to remind me that there are people who still understand you without needing too much explanation. Do you have someone like that? Someone whose voice reminds you of a part of yourself? That person may have been gone for a long time, not talked to, but the memories are still there, quiet and warm. That call didn't change my life. But when I hung up, I felt lighter. The room wasn't as quiet as before. And I understood that, sometimes, what we need isn't something new, but just reconnecting with what used to be ours, even if it's just through a call. Maybe you're thinking about someone too. Not for anything big. Just because. Missing. So, maybe today is the time. No need to compose good lyrics. No need for a perfect reason. Just call as a way of saying, I still miss. You're still here, in a part of my memory, because you know. A simple call can touch something much deeper, the feeling of being seen, remembered, needed, even if just a little. And sometimes, that's what keeps us in this life, not with loud echoes, but with small sounds, but true. And when I look back at the simple lines on that piece of paper, not the big things or the list of achievements, but the simple things that have been with me for so many years, I understood that I don't need to look any further. Everything I've ever tried, in the end, is just to return to this place, where fullness has always been present. You know, there are pieces of paper that I always keep carefully in the closet. And when I look back at the simple lines on that piece of paper, not the big things or the list of achievements, but the simple things that have been with me for so many years, I understood that I don't need to look any further. Everything I've ever tried, in the end, is just to return to this place, where fullness has always been present. That piece of paper. Simple, scribbled, not the kind of list someone hangs on the refrigerator. But to me, it's one of the most honest things I've ever written. Not things to do. But it is what is. A hot cup of coffee in the morning. The sound of children laughing in the kitchen. The soft pillow. The old door frame. The sunlight tilting its head in the afternoon. A friend who still remembers to call me. A body, though sometimes in pain, still takes me through the day. A heart, though tired, still knows how to vibrate for small things. And I think, if that is still here, then today is enough. My friend, if you are listening to this, Perhaps in your heart there is a silence like I once had. No one sees it. No one calls its name. But you feel it, clearly, smoldering. I don't have any great answers. Just a small reminder, sometimes, we don't need to do anything more to feel at peace. Just stop. Sit down. And write a list. Not of the things you are missing, but of the things you still have. Write by hand. Write slowly. No need to be fancy. Just be real. And maybe, like me, you will also find. Peace does not come from many more. But it comes from looking back and realizing, I have enough even in the smallest things. If you are wondering, is that true for me? I can't say for sure. But I was there. I didn't believe it. And then one morning, I just sat still, and realized. Maybe, you're about to have that day too. Who knows? Maybe today is that day. If what I just shared has made you feel better, or awakened something inside you, I would be very grateful if you would like to let me know you're still here. Leave a comment. Tell me which element you would start with first. And if you think this content deserves to be heard by someone you love, please share it or invite them to watch it. And if you want to continue to accompany me in simple and warm sharing like this, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell, so we can meet again in other early mornings. Thank you for taking the time, and most of all, for giving a little love to yourself today. See you again on the nearest peaceful day.